Okay. Hello? I am going to do something real quick. Like I said, I have no clue if this is showing my screen or not. I do not know how I do that. In all honesty, I don't know how, but I just okay. I don't know. Okay, I have no clue. I think it's Mac who is in from my Loki video watching for when this gets uploaded afterwards, if whatever random person watches this, I guess. As who knows, whenever. But today I'm talking Ghostbusters, more accurately. First three movies, which one from the 80s, and the remake from 2016, and my personal history on these movies. And then I'm talking about Helluva Boss, which is an animated sitcom series on YouTube that is awesome. Talking somewhat about it, but not too much, just because that's something I need to talk to someone else about, someone else with. But if I knew how to share screens and stuff, I'd try and do sort of a background details thing on it, but I don't know how to pull that up on here. But for Ghostbusters, the original 1984 Ghostbusters is an amazing movie. It's I'd say my favorite movie ever made, at least for the moment. It's an amazing comedy with Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, Rick Moranis, William Atherton, to name just the main cast in the movie. It is an amazing movie. It is by far my favorite movie. Like I said, it is my favorite movie ever made. And I'm hoping my microphone is picking me up. I'm hoping you can hear me talk. And that it isn't coming out whispered. But, yeah, so Ghostbusters is an amazing comedy. It's a bit of a horror film. It has scenes in it that remind me of horror films. One of them in particular that I'll get into later. But overall, the original 1984 film is a movie I love. It's near and dear to me. It is my favorite movie. It is amazing. I 100% recommend it at any time. I love watching it around Halloween because it always puts me in a Halloween mood, Halloween feel. So, texting someone if you hear my keyboard clicking. Um, yeah. So, like I said, Ghostbusters is my favorite movie ever made. And yeah, Ghostbusters, I don't want to spoil it for people, but I don't know too much how to talk about it. I really don't know too much how to talk about Ghostbusters, in all honesty. I have much more to say, I guess, about Ghostbusters 2 a little bit. Ghostbusters 2 is one I hate. I hate Ghostbusters 2. That movie makes me really, really mad just because it's really kid-friendly. It's a toned down movie from the original. The original, they are chain smoking, they are swearing. Ray Stan Aykroyd's character basically has a dream where he has basically where I can see that you hate. But Ghostbusters, the original, has a scene basically where Ray Stan Aykroyd's character, he's having a dream where he's basically having sex with a ghost. Which that's an actual scene in the movie, which in the original script that they filmed, it was supposed to be him and Vincent Zedmore, Ernie Hudson's character. But they had to cut it out, and Dan Aykroyd went to theirs and said, "Yeah, just put it back in as a dream," which is really weird and it's just super random. But again, it's very much an adult horror comedy, the original is, but Ghostbusters 2 is defamed, and apparently the reason for it, according to Bill Murray recently said in an interview, that for Ghostbusters 2, Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis wrote an amazing script, but by the time they all showed up on set to get the filming, it wasn't the script they wrote, it wasn't what they'd originally written, meaning I'd say Sony went in and cut out anything too dark except for a scene of decapitated heads on pikes that are covered in blood, which, that's really dark, and that's from Ghostbusters 2, and that scared me as a kid, around 7 or 8 years old when I first watched that Ghostbusters 2, that was a scary scene, a legitimately scary scene, but I think this is a thumbs up. I have no clue. It's in the chat. But yeah, Ghostbusters 2 is a movie I really hate just because it's kid friendly, it's toned down, and half of it is just the original movie all over again, just without the adult edge to it. So it isn't as good, and I hate it. I just hate it. Like, there's a scene in the movie where they're in Ghostbusters 2 when they're in court, and Bill Murray's character, Dr. Peter Venkman, is up on trial. He's up on the stands, and their lawyer is Louis Tully, and Venkman is clearly telling Tully what to say. Yet, I think it's a prosecutor or something says, Your Honor, he's leading the witness, which is wrong. It should have been he's leading the lawyer, which is really funny. They had that set up perfectly and didn't take advantage of it, which sucks, and I'd say that's more of Sony than anything else. Yeah, Ghostbusters 2 I hate, but I will watch it. Should every now and then, one of my favorite scenes in that just to laugh at is a scene with Dana Barrett's Sigourney Weaver's character, and she's holding this baby, Oscar, who's being targeted by the main villain, Vigo. And this bathtub just fills with pink slime and just reaches out, and it's clearly a puppet, and grabs for her, and she's just screaming at the top of her lungs, bloody murder, giving it her all. And that scene just cracks me up because it's so absurd that it just cracks me up. But yeah, overall, Ghostbusters 2 is one I hate. I understand some people liking it or they're nostalgic for it, liking it as a guilty pleasure. Guilty pleasures, in my opinion, are just excuses. You're saying, oh yeah, you know it's bad, but you like it anyway, fine. But when guilty pleasure kind of gets thrown around just as an excuse. And I am sorry if my face is kind of blurred to the window. I have new shades up, but it doesn't block out all of the sunlight, which is fine, I guess. Now, Ghostbusters 2016. Ugh. This movie, that movie, it really, really, really sucks. Oh boy. Where to even begin on that one? I don't remember where I read it or saw a video on it, something where basically Ghostbusters 2016 had a script that got thrown out completely by Paul Feig, the director of that movie. Then on set for the entire time they were shooting, they were filming, told all the actors to just be funny. So there's like 6 to 9 hours of footage that was left on the cutting room floor of editing where they were told to be funny. And I don't know very much about filmmaking, but I do know about filmmaking is that is not something you do. And other than, in my opinion, other than Kate McKinnon and Chris Hemsworth, that main cast in the movie is not very good at ad-libbing. Chris Hemsworth can be good at ad-libbing if the right director is involved, like Taika Waititi or Waititi, however you pronounce his last name, and for Thor Ragnarok, because a lot of Hemsworth apparently ad-libbed a lot in that movie. But Ghostbusters 2016, he's not really funny. because he wasn't allowed to be funny. And that's mainly because of that movie's politics of, oh yeah, he's a straight white guy, he can't be funny, which sucks. Because most of the original cast, the three of the main Ghostbusters in the original were straight white guys, and all of them are hilarious. And Vincent Zedmore, played by Ernie Hudson, is also really funny in Ghostbusters '84. So it really does suck. Like, Hemsworth, I think his only funny line in 2016 is basically he wears glasses and he goes like this through the lenses. And Melissa McCarthy's character, I forget her character's name because the movie's boring. It's just boring as all hell. So I don't remember much of it. And I just rewatched it a couple weeks ago for a video, which is now a live stream just because my camera's dead. But like, I took a few notes, but I was too bored to really even take notes on the movie. Like, his only funny line is that his Melissa McCarthy character goes, what happened to your grass? The lenses in your grass. And he's like, oh, they just kept getting dirty, so I took them out, which is funny. That's really funny. The rest of the time, he's bland as hell. And it's Chris Hemsworth. It's Thor. I don't know how you do that. I really don't. But, yeah, all three Ghostbusters movies, in my opinion, that have been released in full at the time of me making this live stream, all of them, in my opinion, have good soundtracks. Even the 2016 reboot, I do like a few songs besides the original theme and some of the covers. But yeah, 2016, that movie, Ghostbusters 2016, really sucks. I hate that movie. I don't know which one I hate more, Ghostbusters 2016, or I like to call it Dumbass Busters, because all of the characters in that are dumbasses. They're all stupid. They all act like children. Or Ghostbusters 2. I don't know which one I hate more. I hate them both. I like neither one of those two movies. I don't know which one I hate more. I don't know which one makes me angrier more. One's boring and one's just kid-friendly fluff. Don't know which one to hate more. I really don't. I honestly don't. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna talk my personal history. At least one of the people, I'm guessing the person watching, I'm guessing is the person who waved in the chat, but I'm guessing that's still them. It might be someone else I sent a thing to, but my personal history is that Ghostbusters, it started out when I was on maybe 6 or 7. On Saturday mornings, I forget the channel, but they'd play the Filmation animated Ghostbusters series, which has its 2 humans and a gorilla that fight ghosts. Strange, bizarre, it's a cartoon from the 80s. Most cartoons from the 80s are strange and bizarre. So, I don't know, it's goofy. It's just a goofy thing, but, so, a few weeks after I'd been watching that pretty much every week, in Walmart, I come across in the like DVD collections that they have of like they're rows of collections of movies and TV shows. They have Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and it ends up a few weeks. It was like I think $20 at the time. My grandmother ended up buying me that collection. She bought me that set that summer, and since it was $20, it's like that's cheap for 2 movies and then a booklet. I remember like doing some odd jobs and she picked that up. But so when I watched the first movie, I'm around 7 or 8 years old. About an hour, I think it's an hour in, not entirely sure. I'm watching the movie. It's about an hour into the movie. I'm watching it. Think it's kind of funny. Think the ghosts look kind of weird. It's being kind of silly. And we get to a scene that really scared me as a kid. And I it came out. I'm 7 or 8 at 8 years old at this time. It's a movie that's rated PG. It's an '80s film, so it does not care if it scares you or not, if you're a little kid or not. And there's a scene where Sigourney Weaver, her character of Dana Barrett, and gets off the phone with her mother, sitting in a chair. The chair turns. Her closet door opens. A demon dog, surrounded by the fires of hell, starts roaring at her. Demon dog claws come up. They restrain her by her wrists. The one just grabs her face like a facehugger from Alien. She's screaming bloody murder. The chair goes flying into the closet, and I shut off the DVD player. That scene scared the hell out of me as a kid. It, and I did not watch the movie all the way through. And it took me till I was 12 to watch the movie all the way through. And like I said earlier, it is now my favorite movie. That movie, that scene, scared the crap out of me as a kid. Like, and Ghostbusters has things like that where there's a zombie taxi driver that looks creepy. The terror dogs, when they're puppets, look creepy. I can only imagine seeing that in person as a little kid. That would have been terrifying. And it is just insane. I found my thoughts on the original Ghostbusters has changed. So, Ghostbusters 2, when I watched it, I was again first started around 7 or 8 years old. And the reason I watched them was that I was forced to watch it by my stepdad, who, if you know me in real life, you know I hate him. That is not an exaggeration. Knows these movies scare me, forces me to watch it, then comes across a scene with severed heads, covered in blood, having blood like from the neck down, on pikes. I am terrified out of my mind. Because that is much worse than the person getting possessed. It's actually darker. I don't know how Sony agreed to let that happen. Because, they have to defame the script. They had to remove anything that was actually scary. Except that scene. That scene. And here he is in this chair watching it. I'm on the couch watching it. I'm terrified. He's laughing his ass off. He thinks it's funny. No normal person would think severed heads is funny. It's not really funny. It's weird, and it's still kind of terrifying just because it's these severed heads that have blood dripping from them on pikes in a dark subway. One is, how do you greenlight that when you're trying to make it more for kids? Because at this point, the real Ghostbusters is a cartoon based on the first movie. It's for kids, but it's still got some dark moments and is very kind of got some edgy moments to it. But I love that cartoon. But so Sony decided to make it more kid friendly. Yeah, they greenlit a scene with severed heads, which is one of the reasons that movie really makes me mad. Ghostbusters 2 really makes me mad is that you have that scene, yet there's no other scenes like it in the movie. None. So yeah, again, took me till I was around 12 years old to fully watch Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2 all the way through. And yeah, Ghostbusters 2 sucks. The original 1984 film is awesome. Ghostbusters 2016 is boring as hell, and I hate it. Again, don't know which one I hate more. Still don't. I have no clue which one I hate more. Ghostbusters 2 or Ghostbusters 2016. No clue. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of odd to me that, and my thoughts on the original Ghostbusters has changed so much since my first viewing of that at around, I'd say 6, 7, or 8 years old. But yeah, I've come a long way since that. Yeah, Ghostbusters was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen at the time. Because at the time, one of my favorite films was The Secret of an Image. It actually has some scenes that I think are a little darker here than Ghostbusters, and that's a G-rated Don Bluth film, so of course it's gonna have some moments that are extremely dark because it's Don Bluth. But yeah, with Ghostbusters, it's no longer the scariest thing I've seen. Like, it actually is a movie that if I hadn't seen it, I would not like. Things like Supernatural, Stranger Things, and I would not even be able to try and read a Stephen King book or watch a Stephen King movie if it wasn't for Ghostbusters. And that's why it's a movie that is really close to me, is that it's a movie that taught me to toughen up, essentially. Some reasons I love 80s movies is that, especially 80s movies that are PG or G, is that they don't care if they scare you. They don't care if their target audience is kids. They will have some dark scenes. They will have some things that are scary. I have no clue what my dogs outside are barking at. Never mind. There goes a truck. That's what they're barking at. Because of course they are. But Ghostbusters is a movie that taught me to toughen up a lot of 80s kids films. Have darker scenes, have scenes that are darker, kind of scary for young kids, and it's like it's a good way to kind of teach them to toughen up is the media they see. Because the thing with kids is that kids a lot of the times will do the opposite of what an adult says, of what anyone says, just because that's what they do. There's kids are stupid, teenagers are still kind of stupid. We'll do the opposite because we know it's going to piss you off if you're an adult. We know it's going to make you mad. And that's why we will do the opposite, because we don't care. We want to see how far we can push you. Right? Kids want to see how far they can push someone. The teenagers are the same way, just more angsty. But media is something that everyone wants. It's something that everyone likes. Everyone likes movies. Everyone likes TV shows. And a good way to do that is knowing what age range you are going to attract with the movies and shows and things you make, with the type of media you're making. And if you're going for a primarily kids-based audience and you throw in some darker scenes, some darker elements, it's something that could legitimately scare a little kid, you might have a good chance to teach them to toughen up. Something that Ghostbusters did for me. Because Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is not, and I'm talking about the Walt Disney movie, because I know there's some independent animated film versions of that story with the same title, but the Walt Disney version has some really macabre and dark imagery that, again, most kids would probably be fine watching, most little kids, but there's always going to be that one kid that's going to be terrified by it. And it's kind of important that you have something to kind of show kids that even if you're scared by it, you have to face it. Ghostbusters was very much that for me, something that I knew I had to face. I knew eventually, even since about 8 years old from first time watching, I pretty much knew. Eventually, I would turn it back on. Eventually, I knew I would have to finish it. And I am glad I did. I'm excited for the new one, I really am. For Afterlife, which comes out in 6 days. So I cannot wait for that. But the original Ghostbusters is very much the movie that taught me to toughen up, and eventually you're gonna have to face your fears. Eventually you're gonna have to grow up, and that you can't be frightened by a movie. You cannot be frightened. You cannot be scared by something that's fake. You cannot let that be something you're scared of. You cannot let that fear be something to control you. You are going to have to grow up and face it eventually. So I'm glad I did because I can now watch movies like The Shining, Doctor Sleep, Pet Cemetery. I can now watch Stephen King. I can now watch these movies that are considered kind of scary and laugh at them because I know they're fake. And if it's an older movie, I know will probably know or learn how an effect was done. I can tell if something's a puppet. I can tell if it's blue screen, stop motion. I can just tell that by looking at it. And because these things have a distinct feel to them, and you can just tell, which is really fun for me. But yeah, that's kind of my personal history with that. When I was a kid, when I first saw it, it scared the crap out of me. It just scared me. But now it's this fun comedy movie that has some horror elements because it is very much a horror comedy film. A comedy horror film, I guess. It'd be more like a comedy horror. Horror? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But it's very much one of those types of movies. And I that's the thing. For if you want to show it to a little kid, a good way to judge, I'd say if they're ready for it, is if they can handle something like Secret of Nim or anything by Don Bluth, in all honesty. If they can handle Don Bluth at his most independent, like An American Tale, or The Secret of Nim, or Secret of Nim, the movies like that, if they can handle that, or Labyrinth, with David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly, which is a good movie. If they can handle something like that, or I'd say even Monster House, I'd say for a little kid, just the CGI alone on that looks freaky. If they can handle that, there's a good chance they can handle Ghostbusters, in my opinion. And if they can't handle that yet, eventually they will. And hello to Mia's Reads 28. I have to call out anyone in the chat that I just see pop up, but yeah, but Ghostbusters for me is just something for me that's amazing that I enjoy, and hopefully Afterlife will be good. I'm hoping it's not based on the trailer. It doesn't look to be that kid friendly. It looks to actually have some moments that might be scary. So, and it's PG-13, hopefully with good reason. So we'll see how that turns out. And now it's time to talk about an independent animated series here on YouTube known as Helluva Boss. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on Helluva Boss for people that haven't seen it, because the person watching, I'm sure, hasn't seen it. But I'm going to basically, it's about these three imps from hell that have this grimoire that are basically able to get a hold of this grimoire, a magic book, to create portals to the human world. Basically, because the owner of this company of Imp of the Immediate Murder Professionals basically is screwing an owl demon prince. Yeah, it's a thing on YouTube. I don't care. It's awesome. It's gory. It's violent, and I love it. It's insane. And Stolitz is the best ship ever. You cannot tell me I'm wrong. Same thing with the M&Ms. Stolitz and the M&Ms. That Stolitz, it's Stolitz and Blitz. And for those that don't know, and the M&Ms when talking about Helluva Boss is Moxie and Millie. And what's really fun, real quick, about Moxie is that it's I forget the voice actor's name, but if you've seen Invader Zim, it's the voice actor for Zim, which is really awesome that he's in this independent YouTube thing, which is just cool. And yeah, Stolitz and the M&Ms from Helluva Boss are the best ships ever. You cannot tell me I'm wrong. if you haven't seen it, watch it. There's only 7 episodes without including the original pilot, which they did post. So 8. It's only like a couple hours. So if you haven't watched that after this stream, watch it. It's more geared towards adults. It's an adult animated comedy, but it's also really violent and really amazing. The animation is spectacular on it. And just episode 7 in and of itself is something that once I figure how to share screens and stuff, I'm going to pull up and go through the pilot and the 7 official episodes. Just go over some of the trying to go over all the background details I find and kind of rewatch it before the second half of the finale comes out, whenever that comes out. Because episode 7 is the first half of the finale. Well, the first part anyway. So I cannot wait for episode 8 for part 2 of the finale to come out, whenever that is. But Helluva Boss is just a show that, again, is something I probably wouldn't watch if it wasn't for Ghostbusters. Very much because it has a bit of a grungy 80s feel to it, which is something Ghostbusters very much is, the original, 1984. It just has kind of that feel to it, and it deals with the supernatural again. If it wasn't for Ghostbusters, Supernatural, Stranger Things, Stephen King, that kind of stuff. Helluva Boss isn't something I would watch, but it's something I'm glad I've been watching, and it is, writing-wise, it's a lot better than some modern Marvel films, in my opinion. Well, films is, Black Widow doesn't have the best writing, in my opinion. It's decent enough for the most part. Like, some of it makes no sense. Like, it's not. It's trying to say like it's an. Like, I get the sense of that it's trying to be a bit of an allegory for like a sex trafficking and things. But the way it's presented in Black Widow, it doesn't fully come across it. It's not really an allegory because it's not one. It's not really 1-to-1. Like, I can see what they're trying to do, but it's not 1-to-1, and it's kind of a mediocre Winter Soldier. And again, it's because modern Hollywood, for the most part, is pretty much ran by grown-up children. Basically, grown-ups that were never told no and just act like giant children. So it doesn't come across as good as like the first two MCU phases, but Helluva Boss just blows that writing from Black Widow, Loki, in my opinion, even Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision away. Now, that's just my opinion. You are completely free to disagree. If you've seen Helluva Boss and those Marvel shows, like, I'm not going to say What If just because I've only seen 5 episodes, and What If has a few episodes that are actually on par writing wise with Helluva Boss, in my opinion. Like the What If Zombies episode, the What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart is very much at its core an emotional story, very much akin to episode 7 of Helluva Boss Aussies. It's just a very emotional thing. And especially if you've seen the first 6 episodes in the pilot of Helluva Boss, if you've seen that, Aussies is going to be a very emotional, and one person watching this, at least that was watching it, I don't know if she still is, but Mac, the person in my Loki video, cries at every movie, every TV show she watches, usually will have her crying. If she watches Helluva Boss after this, and she's free in her free time and she's not babysitting or anything, episode 7 will probably have her in tears. I'm not kidding. Like, and I'm not going to make fun a little bit. It's kind of funny, but episode 7 actually did have me about to start crying because that ending is just so emotional. Like, even now it feels like I'm starting to kind of tear up about it, just thinking about it, because it's just an emotional thing. It just had me like, no. Because, like, you see one of the main characters, you see the main character of Blitz, pretty much at his lowest emotional point that he's ever been at in this series, and that is just something heartbreaking to it. But if you have not seen it, watch it. Watch the entire series. You have to watch it because it is so good and so well done. The animation is spectacular. The writing is amazing. The voice acting in the show is amazing. And then also one other thing that is only amazing is that it's got song sequences. It has musical sequences and a good chunk of the episodes, and they are amazing. Like in my opinion, they are better than some movie musicals I've seen. They are better than some of those. Like the song "Millie," um, the Lululand song from episode 2, um, what Moxie sings in episode 7, Fizz and Asmodeus' song from episode 7. The IMP jingle, which I believe is from the pilot, is also amazing. Which has a line which is called the Immediate Murder Professionals, which is just awesome. It's basically called IMP, which is an acronym, which is it also you could be read as IMP, which is what 3 of the main characters are. And Helluva Boss is also just funny. Like there are some people I've seen in comments on that saying that it's like Family Guy or Rick and Morty or other adult animated shows, which it sort of is, but it's so much better. In all honesty, it's a lot better. And not only is it a lot better than those, is that it doesn't rely on shock humor like a lot of modern animated shows do, like Family Guy, The Simpsons, and also it's actually really funny and also actually really smart in its own right. Like Rick and Morty, I've seen a few clips of from jokes and stuff, and I don't find them that funny. Maybe it's that they're not in context, but I don't feel like it's as smart. Plus, one of the writers from Rick and Morty wrote the Loki series, which has some smart things in it. Loki, my only problem is that it's a guy that kind of hates the MCU, who's the head writer of Loki, and he said he wanted to make the MCU everything for in the MCU that came before Loki look like crap. Which, yeah, I don't think that's a good way to keep your job. Yet for whatever reason, Disney is like, yeah, go ahead, write whatever you want. I don't know. At this point, I think Disney's just printing its own money. At this point, but yeah, Hell of a Boss is amazing, and and it is, in my opinion, just such a good show that you have to see it. That it is something that I'm going to have to go over probably frame by frame, or at least just for the backgrounds. And that will when I do that, I those will probably like those streams afterwards. I will probably age date them, basically restrict them age wise because that is not something for little kids to see. Because yeah, it is not for kids. Just because something's anime doesn't mean it's for kids. But yeah, it's just an amazing show. It's an interesting show, and it's very much plot driven in a way. Like the first, I think it's 4 episodes of the series. He's excluding the. I guess that's the thing. The like other than the pilot, which is establishing, and then episode 1's again kind of reestablishing a little bit. Um, but it's sort of it's planting some seeds for things to come. I mean, in later episodes, but they don't go anywhere in the first 2 episodes. And the worst episode of Helluva Boss, and it's just because the main antagonists in the episode are annoying, and they don't really further anything too much. Mainly the main plot, or even the main plot of the show too much, is our cherub, basically these angel characters, and yeah, your main show is following demons from hell. Yeah, of course, angels are going to be kind of the antagonists. Yeah, that makes sense. in all honesty. But it is a thing where they aren't written the best, and they aren't the funniest characters. But my favorite episode, I think, is episode 6, episode 6 of Helluva Boss Truth Seekers. Mainly because of the fight at the end, which is violent and gory and just awesome in the way it's animated. It reminds me of, I would say, the first 3 seasons, a little bit of Seven Deadly Sins in the first movie, because that has some spectacular animation for the fight scenes. Um, that's another one. There's another anime series that has some amazing fight scenes that kind of reminds me of. I don't remember what it is. Is it also? This isn't the one I was thinking of. I don't remember fully, but one of them that again, for at least for its movies, has some really awesome fights. It has some awesome fights in the show. Is My Hero Academia, but the movies, especially when they're fighting the big bads of the movies, have some really awesome animation for the fights. But and it does kind of remind me of that, but just going with like different weapons and things, and also again having some jokes in the fights. Again, would be the Seven Deadly Sins anime on Netflix, just because in that one the heroes do joke around a lot when they fight a little bit. Something you see Blitz do. Who somewhat he's sort of joking around, but it's just more these funny moments, these comedic moments. So it's interesting to say the least with Helluva Boss, and I'm sure if as many times as I've said hell in this stream alone, it will, once I'm able to monetize my channel, this will not make money at all just because of that, but I don't care in all honesty. But it Helluva Boss is an interesting thing. Eventually I will figure out how to basically share my screen on here. I'm going to look into that, and when I do, I'll try and make a stream, basically, or a few different streams, even if no one watches them live. Basically, just going frame by frame, or trying to just look at the backgrounds of the different information and stuff and pulling all that information from the episodes themselves, including the pilot, into it, even if it has to be 8 or 9 streams to do it. But yeah, Helluva Boss is amazing. If you haven't seen it, you have to. You absolutely have to, because it is just that good. It's just that funny. It's just that clever. It's just that smart. It's one you have to watch. So I think I'll get off here and see you in either the next video or the next stream. So see ya.